on the. All right, guys, take two. We're going to edit this out, so we're good. Guys, my name is Eugene, and I am trying something new. And you know what? This is live streaming, and in live streaming, about anything can happen, particularly when you're dealing with a technologically challenged, half blind or fully blind hillbilly. My name is Eugene, guys, and you are at Real Life and Law. If you're looking at me through TikTok or YouTube, Facebook, maybe, you can give me a call at 559-335-3331, I believe is the number. It should be scrolled on. The number should be there. I can't see it. So we're talking about today, I would like to talk about this even, food stamps, poverty, and we'll throw in a little bit of politics and talk about the government shutdown. This is not a political program. I never talk about politics except in these types of occasions when it affects most everybody. About 40 million people will be affected because of the government shutdown. And I'm not here to point fingers, so if that's the purpose of your call, you can move on. We want to talk about poverty and what happens, why poverty is here, how long poverty. We're going to give you a little bit of a historical perspective. We talk about the food stamp program because that seems to be the thing that everybody is talking about now on the media. So my name is Eugene, just for a little bit of background if you don't know, and you can give a call, guys. I'm an old hillbilly. I was born in Ohio. I'm a Buckeye, but against all you Buckeyes out there, I really don't claim the Buckeye state. I'm a hillbilly born in Eastern. It's going to have some significance today when we talk about the food stamp program and poverty and all of those things. So let's open it up a little bit. Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an attorney. And I currently manage a substance abuse and treatment facility with my daughter. My daughter owns it. I help with the counseling duties and chores. So I am in the Appalachian region. Right now I'm in Florida, by the way, but I work in the Appalachian area, one of the hardest hit places when it comes to poverty and economic distress. So let's start talking about it. This program only works well when you give me a call. I say, give me a holler. If you're looking at me through TikTok, appreciate it. Thank you very much. If you're looking at me through the YouTube, I appreciate it. So let's talk a little bit about the SNAP program. Originally, just by way of some historical perspective, it was one of the programs that was started under Franklin D. Roosevelt. Franklin Roosevelt, I believe, served 12 years, the longest serving in our United States. He served during the totality, well, not really the whole of World War II, because he passed away, unfortunately, before the end of the war, but he served during the Great Depression and was instrumental in all of that in the worker programs to kind of help the government help people get on their feet during the Depression, the stock market crash, and then World War II. You know, the stock market crash of the 20s. Then, of course, we were just getting out of World War I, and then we went from the stock market crash, the Roaring 20s. Then we had breadlines and all that. So the food stamp program was a response to help provide farmers. It was a way for low-income families to purchase overstock for the farmers. A lot of farmers couldn't sell their crops because times was bad. People didn't have any money. So they developed this pilot program, the food stamp program, for low income individuals. Uh, for low income, do what?
Brought you to Google that because your Wi-Fi's.
Oh. For low income families to get, I think we got a technology upgrade here in a minute. For low income families to get food assistance. But I think really, if you look at it back that on those days, it was really a way to help the farmers so they could push and move some of their crops. Which either way, it doesn't matter to me. It's a good program. Then it was discontinued. The food stamp program was discontinued sometime in the late 40s, I think 1949, because there wasn't really a need. People were beginning to get on their feet. Now, see, this is how you know. This is kind of how you know that poverty.
Is like really bad. Let me make sure you're connected to the right Wi-Fi.
I can't do this again. I'm not going to do it again. On the right one. So the food stamp program, we had an interruption here, guys, and I'll post this to my YouTube and my Spotify, so hopefully I'll cut out all this other crap. It was paused in the 40s because people were beginning to get on. This is how you know that a lot of the stuff that's going on today is purely politics. And I'm going to say a kind of a tough truth. This is also how you know that people can make it without government assistance. That program was discontinued. Somehow people still managed to get food in their belly. So I guess what I'm saying is there are worse things, worse times in our history, and this too shall pass. However, so we go from the late 40s, and the food stamp program started back in I think there was a study commissioned in 1961 under then President Johnson, who was, if you're an old hillbilly, he was supposed to be our savior. The war on poverty, President Johnson, go ahead and take a look at him. It was a host of legislative achievements in the 60s. We were undergoing a lot of turmoil. One of the things that a lot of these politicians focused on was the poor people of Appalachia. The war on poverty started. Lyndon Johnson came and visited a gentleman, I think his last name was Fletcher, in Inez, Kentucky, where I'm from, Martin County, Kentucky, one of the poorest, still one of the poorest counties in the country, not just in Kentucky, in the country. So let's let that sink in. The war on poverty started in the 60s under Mr. Johnson. He sat there on the steps with his old farmer, Mr. Fletcher. I believe his wife was in the picture. There's some iconic pictures of Mr. Johnson, President Johnson, sitting down with Mr. Fletcher in an old shack just on the edge of Inez. So from that point to now, Martin County, Eastern Kentucky, is still among some of the poorest counties in the country. So we know, it's the data, the empirical data is clear. War on poverty didn't do a hell of a lot for the people of Appalachia. In fact, I would argue, and I can, if you all want to call, I will argue that it made things worse. We now have, and we can talk about this too, I'm going to throw this topic out there, a cycle of dependence on the government, the savior, the people in Washington. Now, there are a lot of people that look at these things as a sinister way to control people. If you give them money and you teach them that they don't need to work, you teach them that they don't need to work. This is Eugene. To accept, press 1. To send a voice. Yes, Robert.
Good evening, Eugene. How are you?
I'm doing well. Just give me a second. Let me finish up a point here if you don't care.
Okay.
So some of the things, we got a caller here. We'll catch Robert here in just a minute. Some of the things that these government programs do, in my opinion, and I think the war on poverty is one of those that we can actually point to and kind of show that it made things worse. It you develop a culture of dependency. And so what I say earlier is that you could get real sinister on this and say that the government, by giving all of these handouts, we call them handouts or subsidies, that it makes people more dependent. They begin to lose their knowledge, how to farm, how to care for themselves. They begin not to rely on themselves and their community and begin and rely more on the government. And when you do that, you over generations, you lose what made you strong or what made you unique. So you could be real sinister. I'm not sinister. So I honestly don't think that's the issue. I think a lot of these programs are well intended. Food stamp program is a wonderful program. I was a recipient of it. So anyway, we'll talk. What's up, Robert? What you got? What's on your mind?
Well, I was born in 1946, and you said that the food stamp program it was never made to keep people going. It was a temporary solution to a problem. You get on them, you apply, you get on it. Once you're back on your feet, you should be able to get off of it. But the other thing is the government let a lot of good paying jobs leave. The automotive industry, some of the coal industry, the steel plants, a lot of the stuff that we used to make good money at is no longer here.
Yeah, and that's true. Well, if we remember, and that's a little bit off topic, but you're correct. I think you have to have an industrial backbone or an industrial base in order to. We moved from an industrial base to a service economy somewhere around the 70s and 80s with NAFTA. If you remember that phase, Ross Perot said, if you continue down the path, and I believe it was NAFTA he was talking about during that presidential debate, he said, you're going to hear a big sucking noise and all of the jobs are going to leave this country. And that's exactly in part what happened. We entered a lot of these World Trade Organization agreements and an agreement here, an agreement there, and we gave up a lot of the things, and a lot of our shipping went south. And now we don't really produce much in our country. We have a service related economy base mostly in our country, and I think that's not good. So your point's well taken that we've got to bring some of the things back to get people to work again.
Yes. And that's the biggest thing is they're not creating new jobs. They let a lot of jobs go away for various reasons.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, my dad worked in the steel mill, and he made real good money. But back then, real good money isn't the same as now. But to keep this short, I think the only way they're ever going to fix this issue is to make everybody show up in person and reapply. I think that's the only way to fix the issue that we're facing.
I think, and that's a real good idea. I think there's some programs that have actually gone that way where you actually have to apply. It seemed like to me Social Security maybe was that way. SSI, maybe you have to go in person and eyeball somebody to apply. I don't, now I could be wrong. Someone will probably call me and tell me later. But I believe that's a wonderful solution to make because what it does is it actually will cut out some of the fraud and stuff that goes on. And of course, the food stamps, and I looked for this number, and this is interesting, not just for you, Robert, but for everybody listening. I was trying to look because there's a lot of the, and I'm not turning this into uh, an immigration issue or any of that, but I tried to look to see if there was a breakdown on how many people were undocumented that were getting food stamps. And almost everything that I looked at, of course, they always refer, Google's really good at this. They'll refer you back to the site they want you to see. And Google apparently has made, and of course, the food stamps will say this. Their regulations say you have to be a United States citizen in order to get food stamps. Now, we know actually from the pandemic and some of these undocumented people that were coming in trying to seek asylum, we're getting a lot of those. Now, I'm not sure how that shakes out now, but you cannot find a data point that says how many people are undocumented that are getting assistance. Having people show up in person, I think that's a wonderful idea. Having people show up in person with their documents, I think, is a wonderful way to fix that. That's a good starter. Great point there, Robert. I appreciate it. Where you from, Robert? Tell me where you're from. Not without telling you, you don't have to tell me your address or anything. Where are you from?
Oh, Southern Ohio.
All right. So you're almost a hillbilly, right?
Yep, down on the river. Little town, Marietta.
I know where it is. Well, buddy.
Yep, Marietta, Ohio.
Thank you.
Anyways, I'm not going to keep you. I enjoyed. I'll be listening to your show. Have a good evening.
All right, buddy. Share the word. I appreciate you. All right. So that was Robert. Been around a while. It sounds like he's a grizzled veteran of life. And so we've got a lot of issues. But when you talk about poverty, you talk about those kinds of issues, we've been dealing with them for a long time. And it seems as though when the government, and I think some of what Robert might have been saying too, is that we don't have the kind of manufacturing jobs we used to. Now, that problem started happening somewhere in the 70s, the late 70s, the early 80s, particularly in the 80s. It was on steroids in the 80s. We don't manufacture anything anymore. We don't manufacture our own medicine. We hardly don't manufacture any furniture. Our automobiles, most of our automobiles come from overseas. I mean, we sell American-made stuff, but it's not like it was. So when we look at poverty, the top 5 poorest states in the country, I believe, are Mississippi. Let me look at my phone. I made some notes on this. I believe, if I can remember from memory, West Virginia, Mississippi, Louisiana. Did I say West Virginia, Kentucky? So those are, let me look at my phone just to make sure. But, and these are the same 5 or 6 states that are always in the top poorest states in the country. They've been that way for a long time. I'm surprised. Let me look here and see. The call, Robert did us a solid and gave us all. I appreciate you, Robert. We're looking at, let me see. Bear with me, guys, and we'll get this. It's one of the things when you're, I've got some other interesting data points here. 559-335-3331, guys. Oh, here it is. Mississippi, Louisiana, New Mexico is the one that I left out. West Virginia and Kentucky, where I'm from. And I've worked a lot in West Virginia. I'm licensed to practice law in West Virginia and Kentucky. And I'm telling you, when you get down into southern West Virginia, eastern Kentucky, those states border each other. And it's very sad to see those areas dilapidate the way they have just since the 80s. They have spiraled downhill, and it's very sad. Particularly, some of the border towns that I'm familiar with, Mingo County borders Pike County. I live in Pike County, Kentucky. Now, Pikeville and Pike County has done a lot to make their city look good, but the guts are gone. There's no downtown activity. There's nothing in town the way well, I'm going to say this, will sound like an old fogey, the way it used to be. But it's not just the way it used to be. It can still be that way. There are other sister cities of Pikeville, Paintsville, Prestonsburg, if you're looking at Eastern Kentucky particularly. They've done a really good job of trying to maintain a vital downtown commerce. Pikeville doesn't have it. It looks nice, but it just doesn't have it. But all of Eastern Kentucky, again, if we're talking about poverty, West Virginia, Kentucky, they're always in the poorest as far as poverty. Roughly 11% of our country's people live below the poverty level. Below the poverty level, roughly. Median income, the median income, average income in our country is somewhere $80,000. Now, I don't know many people that make $80,000. To be eligible for food stamps, we won't keep this on. A lot of the food stamp programs and a lot of those government assistance programs, they gauge it on the poverty level. To be eligible, you have to be 130% of the poverty level. What does that mean? For a family of four, I believe, an income of greater than $40,000 takes out of that poverty. It'd be under $40,000, somewhere around $30,000. The data is there. Every state's a little different, though, has that income, because some states are worse off than others, as I've told you: Kentucky, West Virginia, New Mexico, Louisiana. They all have a little different sliding scales. 100% is still 130%, but the dollar amount's different because the average in those states is always different. It varies from state to state. So look at 130% of poverty. That means you're below the poverty line. So to be eligible for food stamps, a family of four, somewhere around $33,000. Family of four. If you're paying rent and you've got some kind of jalopy that you got to get to and from work, and plus insurance bills, you can't hardly live. I don't know how people do it now. But that's what these programs are there for. And Robert made some good points. Those programs were never conceived to be a way of life. And in my research and preparation for this show, I'm fairly familiar with these numbers and the data points. But nowhere could I really find what average stay for someone on SNAP benefits are, food stamps. They did say that it can range anywhere from 3 months to 3 years. That's a big old long time. It's been on food stamps 3 years. You all probably do. I'm not hating on it. I'm saying from 3 months, 3 years, that's a pretty big gap. It's kind of like and I'm maybe off on a tangent a little bit. It's kind of like the living wage or the minimum wage designed for people to stay on a wage job. Typically, in theory, minimum wage is designed to get people entered into the workforce and then climb their way up. Statistically, that's the way it does work. Most people don't stay at minimum wage for longer than 6 months, believe it or not. Somewhere around 6 months to a year at most. Most people will leave and move up the scale on that minimum wage. So, but that doesn't seem to happen with poverty. It just doesn't. We have in our area just generations of people that were since the 60s that have been living or subsisting. I don't even call it living, subsisting on food stamps. I believe the average food stamp recipient today around $180 a month per person. I believe maybe a little more, a little less, depending on where you live. And that is sometimes not enough, but $180 a person, I think is a good amount if it's done correctly. I don't think they don't do enough in that program to truly teach you how to budget. They don't teach you really enough about nutrition. Now, although that's one of the things that this program is supposed to do is teach you how to eat right. Well, I can remember food stamp line with my mother when I was little because we were just living school bus. My mother stayed home and took care of us. And then for a while, she worked in the kitchen at the schools. So the food stamp program was a big part of our growing up years. We needed it to eat. There were 6 of us in the family. And it was tough sledding 7 later on, but my little brother come along when we started making. But food stamps was a big welcomed event in our family. The first of the month, we knew we was going to get food stamps. We knew we was going to get to eat. But back then, I'm talking about the late 60s and 70s, the types of food that they allowed you to get taste good, wasn't much to it. Certainly a lot of the packaged foods that you've got now, the cereals and stuff. Show on SNAP benefits as opposed to their counterpart that was on benefits. And I believe on his show was that the person on SNAP is 40 pounds heavier than their counterpart. And for women, it was particularly rough. The average woman not on SNAP weighed 145 pounds.
Rob said, "Buzz it lagging." I said, "I bought my Wi-Fi extender off Marketplace."
All right, guys, apparently I have technical difficulties. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to call it the evening. It's lagging really bad, but I'm going to do this tomorrow back at the condo. I'll be on live. We'll do.
A friend who needs your set. Could you put a bug in his ear?
We'll do this. Well, guys, tomorrow.
Someone said, "Let's play trivia."
I'm gonna get. Oh, come on, guys.
I told him you were on the opposite end of the house, so you're not near the light.
I'm gonna get on at 11 o'clock, but I like the setup.
They said bye.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. We'll get out of here. Let's end this thing tomorrow at about 11. 11 o'clock, if you can hear me.